Hey, Coach Reggie, business growers, scaling up coach as well. And we've got the scaling up workshop coming up. Robbie with Atlantic Computer Services has been to the scaling up workshop. He's actually been to a scaling up, much kind of a larger version of that. But a component of the conference she went to was the scaling up, kind of learning the scaling up principles. So a piece of that was the scaling up workshop. So he's been there and had implemented several of those scaling up principles in his business. So Robbie, share with everybody what has been what was life like before implementing some of these scaling up processes, learning them, and how's it gone with implementation? What's life like now after implementing scaling up stuff?
Hey, Reggie. Well, thanks for letting me jump on here with you. Yeah, so you and I have talked several times. I think prior to our work with scaling up, I felt like I had gotten to the place where my business had kind of outgrown me, and getting in front of the scaling up tool set and seeing what's there available and working with you to help me get those prioritized and start the process of laying those out have been very significant in my business. Prior to this, you asked the question. Prior to this, it was a lot of stress, a lot of worry about internal things. Are we doing this right? Are we servicing our client correctly? Really, my focus was not about growth. My day to day was on putting this fire out and that fire out. And then as we've gone through these tools and working on the process, we've shored up the internal operation of the business. Now, clearly, there's still work that has to be done, no question, but it really has given me the ability to start thinking about the business differently. I've got the tool stack in front of me. When I run into a problem, there are solutions there that I can look at and I can work through to fix whatever problem I'm working on. But after we've gotten through this process, certainly the level of stress on our internal operation has subsided significantly. And now the worry is, how are we going to grow? What is it's a very different, it's a very different worry, right? It's an excitement to how do we grab an opportunity? I mean, I have the skill set, I guess, and the time to be able to focus on the growth stuff, the fun stuff about being a business owner, not so much the mundane, what fire do I have to put out today?
Yeah. So one of the benefits of using the scaling up operating system to operate your business is because it takes the pressure off. Most business operate in a bit of chaos and drama on varying levels. And without the operating system in place, a common conundrum is growth and even just maintenance, like maintaining a certain level goes on the backs of individuals, so the people have to work a whole lot harder. And the person that really filled that gap and who had to pull the cart was you. You
Right.
had to be the center point of the business. So that was a trap. We talked about growth. You were like, I can't handle growth because everything has to go on through me. So, good businesses and even a pretty fairly great business can only go so far with overloading the backs of their talented employees. And that results in, burnout and those kind of things. So I know that was a scenario you were in, and then implementing some of these practices, lightened your load.
That's right.
Would that be fair to say? Talk a little bit about all that.
Yeah, so no question about it. Personally, from my perspective, is giving me a huge sense of relief, I guess, in that things are operating in a defined process. But I think what's really kind of when I take a step back and I think about where we've gone over the past year and a half or 2 years or so, I think to an employee, every one of my employees have made the comment or have gone out of their way to talk about, wow, things are operating a lot better than they used to. And that's, these guys or your gals or whatever, they are as much interested in getting some processes defined as you are. So my whole team has been very open to what we're doing. And I would venture to say that they're all, to a person, appreciative of the progress we've made over the last the last couple of years. In that you mentioned that, you said that their jobs are easier. They know what they're responsible for. They know what a good day looks like, instead of just, boy, it seems like we had a good day. Well, now we kind of know if you had a good day or not. I think responsibility and accountability, you would think that employees wouldn't really be too excited about that. But ironically, I think they want that. They want the accountability. So, what separates a good employee from a bad employee? When someone knows what how the scorecard looks, you're going to have folks that really step up. And there are people on my team that are performing in a way that's so much beyond what I ever would have expected where they would be today. And they are interested in the process more so than I ever thought they would. I thought it was they would be, okay, well, this is just something else that we got to do. But it's not that way at all. I mean, they love the organization that this process brings.
What you've described in real life is what a good operating system and tools and a good system will help you do, right? They'll help you get more outcome and more output with less input by implementing, I want to say, some tools. And in this business sense, tools are a little bit metaphorical, but it's good, solid business processes that make sense, that allow communication to be more effective and rhythmic and more often, that often frees up time during the day and gets everybody on the same page and what the targets are. And I guess in a lot of cases, you were kind of flying this business airplane on manual with not a lot of instruments.
Yeah.
And just like, as long as we stay up in the air, we're good. Right. But man, there was a lot of stress and pressure on you to make sure that you guided everything. And it was so much pressure on you. So I would assume what's happened is, what I've watched happen is, all the pressure has kind of been relieved from you as the center point. Yeah. And that's been distributed amongst the team. And then using systems, it just is a whole lot less chaotic. So now, growth isn't as scary of a thing. Like, how are we going to pull this off? We're barely doing what we're doing now. Now the kind of things have settled a bit that you're like, okay, now I see these next levels of growth are not going to be as crazy because what we're doing now is so much more manageable. I get all that right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, being a IT vendor, so when you say operating system, that means something to me. But looking back, this really is an operating system. It lays out the foundation of what you need to be doing in your business, and it gives you the how-to to make these things happen, to get you beyond the chaos into some process, right? I mean, before this, we were very much we were just we were making it happen. By the seat of our pants, and
by force, like by back breaking,
that's
breaking the back to a certain degree, or just whatever current. You're not digging ditches, but but it's the same type of stuff, right?
Exactly. As a business owner, if you take a step back and you think about the days when you were an employee, you had a set thing, you had a schedule, you had set things that you had to do. You were responsible for these things. Here's how you answered the phone, or here's how you made sales, or here's how you manufactured whatever product you're manufacturing. Well, when you're a business owner, you kind of don't have those, you don't really have those processes anymore. And this puts some of those things back in place. So it makes it a heck of a lot easier to make it through the day to day. And like we talked about earlier, things just kind of operate over here. And now I have the time freed up to go work on some other things. It's naive to think that I never have to worry about operational issues anymore. That's not it. The beauty is that there's a process in place that will handle 80 or 90% of our day to day, and then I have the opportunity to go think about other things, sales, growth, whatever that might be.
Yeah, and so and we're talking about these mysterious tools and process and those kind of things. You want to know about those, reach out to me. Like, copy the book Scaling Up is a great field manual that lines all that out. So if you're watching this, curious, reach out to me. We'll get you a copy of the book, which is, again, a little more of a field manual than a book. It'll give you a lot of how-tos and how to do that. So I'm going to make one observation, that giving you some of the strategies kind of ad hoc, and there was some hesitancy and implement, will it work, and all those kind of things. And what really busted it loose for you, based on my observation, is not just me kind of hand feeding and just reading the book, but when you went to the workshop, like, I think that's when the lights turned on for you, because there was a difference in buy-in, belief, confidence. Something happened to where the light came on, and you accelerated your implementation a lot because of the workshop, which provided so much more than just kind of reading the book, and a lot of those questions and hesitations kind of got answered. Was that did I call that right?
Yeah. So in the conference and the seminars we were in, I mean, it gives you more of a big picture. You see how all this stuff works together a little easier than we're on chapter 1 today, we're on chapter 2 tomorrow. Being able to see all this kind of working together, I think, was really important. As you and I have been going through this process, I think you mentioned it earlier, we were kind of, here's the first thing we're getting implemented. Okay, here's the next thing we're getting implemented. And we were very systematic in how we approach things, getting off and getting into these seminars and seeing all the anecdotal conversations about other companies and how this company did it. And I've seen this happen before. All those things are really important to put what you're reading about in context. So it's definitely an important element of the journey, I guess you would call it.
Yep. So what you mentioned earlier, that you relooked at the Rockefeller Habits Checklist, which is one of the kind of center point tools that kind of saw how you're doing. You've mentioned how much things have changed, and what a relief and all that stuff. Like, things are so much better, right? Things are running smooth, and they really are. So much smoother than they were, and really, really smooth. What percentage of the checklist do you think you have completed at this point?
Yes. Well, I mean, I still have work to do. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, but I know. But what percentage do you think it's done?
We're probably,
I think it's less than 50.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're 35, 40% maybe.
Yeah.
There's first of all, it's important to note, Reggie, that there are a lot of things on that Rockefeller checklist that aren't they aren't huge, groundbreaking things that you need to do, right? I mean, these aren't like, oh my God, it's going to take me 6 months to get this implemented. No. There's a lot of things in there that are a meeting agenda, or the meeting frequencies, or things like that are really easy to implement, to be honest with you. Yeah. But it's just part of a much bigger picture. So yes, there's some things on there that's going to take some work, and it's going to take, an extended period of time to get implemented correctly. Yeah. But there's an awful lot of those tools that really aren't, it's not rocket science, we'll say, but right. It's a realization that even the small components of what you're doing are really part of a much bigger picture, much bigger total operating system, right? So. Yeah. I think that's important.
Good news is, man, things are running smooth and great, and you've got about 35% of the kind of operating system in place, right? Some, there's some stuff that's immediate, got to do this now, get some free, but there's a lot more. So I guess my point was, pretty delighted with all this, and things have made tons of progress, and business running pretty smooth, and only got about 35% implemented. That's awesome news. If it was all implemented, then I'm like, what am I going to do now?
I'd be on an island somewhere sipping a drink with an umbrella, right?
That's right. All right. Well, thanks, Robbie, for sharing your experiences and taking a few minutes to do that. And, we'll be doing these scaling up workshops on an ongoing basis. Got the tools, got some books. So got a lot of things that we can, and a lot of these scaling up tools are open source too. So if somebody's watching this and has some interest in that, reach out to us, and we'll be glad to guide you in the right direction. So again, thanks again, Robbie.